Hello, world, and welcome to this episode of the RONJIRU Japan podcast, the place where we provide insights on Japan from people who know Japan. Today's episode is the longest interview we've done on the show so far, but you won't want to miss any of it. We're joined by Shuhei, Shu Murakami, a stand-up comedian and junior high school English teacher here in Japan. We discuss three major topics. 1. His fascinating story of becoming homeless in another country and how he overcame it. Number 2, his thoughts on stand-up comedy and comedy in Japan. We have a clip. And number 3, the less than optimal state of English language teaching in Japanese schools. Now, any of these discussions could be an entire episode in itself, but we've packed all three into one. Our guest is Shuhei Murakami. I'm your host, JT, and this is Ronjiru. Let's discuss Japan. Shuhei Murakami, welcome to the RONJIRU Japan podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. It's a
very
pleasure.
It's very good to. Oh, well, the honor is all mine. You're a stand-up comedian, but you're also a school teacher now. Man of many hats. Mm-hmm. I want to ask you, what has the schools been like during the past 15 months or so?
It's crazy, but it's as normal as it used to be before the pandemic. Yeah.
I see.
Except that everyone's wearing a mask.
Oh, I see.
Of course.
During classes.
And during the lunch, they cannot speak at all.
Mm-hmm.
They cannot talk.
Oh, wow. So silent eating.
Mm-hmm.
I see. Let's get right into it. Let's talk about you for a bit. Your life story is far more interesting than any question I could come up with. So I think the best way to do this is for me to get out of the way. It's a fascinating, sort of like a novel, full of twists and turns and interesting things. I think it's best if I just let you tell the story in your own words. So let's go through it, starting from you were almost a high school dropout in Japan, which is very rare here. Let's start there.
Oh, yes, sure. I didn't really go to school.
Mm-hmm.
And it was not because I was a hikikomori. Do you know the word? Hikikomori
Yes.
is a person who stays in parents' house doing nothing but playing video games and stuff. I was a little bit different from that. When I was in high school, I really got into playing music and like playing the guitar, playing with my band. So I was really focused on it. And to rent a studio, it was really expensive. Then I wanted to buy some guitar stuff, keyboard stuff. So I was doing the part-time almost every day. That was at the McDonald's. So yeah, I was working until 10 o'clock every night, and it was really hard for me to wake up in the morning and go to school regularly. Or I would say I've not really been good at doing something regularly, like on a daily basis. So I really didn't manage to go to school every day and do the same things that every other kids were doing. Yeah.
You were too busy playing the guitar.
Yeah, and I love sleeping, so that's another reason.
Did you dislike school?
I would say I was not really into like school itself. Like studying. I never studied in high school except a few months before the university entrance exam. That's the only period that I studied in. So there were a few textbooks that I never opened even opened once. So that was what my high school life was like.
You said you had a band.
Oh yes.
What kind of music did you play?
We did covers. We wrote some original songs too.
Hmm.
Mostly we played rock music. When we did covers, we did cover some Japanese rock, like the
Mm-hmm.
Blue Hearts and RC Succession, which is from the 80s
I
or
see.
70s. I'm not really sure. It was an old band that I was really into at that
Mm-hmm.
time. And we also covered the Beatles, Queen, Led Zeppelin, something like that,
The
like
classics.
70s, 60s. Yeah, British rock. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You said that you didn't start studying until the end of high school to get into university.
Hmm.
So, how did you manage that?
Well, I was kind of like, to be honest, I was kind of good at like studying, like memorizing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't that well, before that, I thought I didn't like studying. I hated studying.
Right.
But when I started studying, it was pretty fun, actually. That's when I finally realized that I kind of liked studying.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons was that because, like my grades were almost like zero. My scores on exams were always under 10, and most of them were like just zero, like nothing. So I couldn't go like worse than that, but the only thing that I could do was like just go up.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you said you didn't study very much in high school, and yet you wanted to go into university and you went into university. How did you manage that?
Well, first of all, the reason why I wanted to go to university was because I met a really cool teacher
Mm-hmm.
when I was in the third grade, which means I was 18 years old, 17, 18 years old. And I want to be like him. I mean, I wanted to be a teacher like him. So I decided to be a teacher. Then that's when I realized that I have to go to university to get the teacher's license. So that's when I started actually studying hard for the
Mm-hmm.
entrance exam. And that's also when I kind of realized that I liked studying.
Oh,
I I always thought I hated studying, but it was pretty fun for me. And well, one of the reasons would be because I had never studied.
I see.
So always on exams, my scores were like always under 10 out of 100, or most of them were like just zero. So I couldn't be worse than that. As I studied, it just went up and up and up. And it was so much fun, to see, how my scores and grades go up.
Right.
But yeah, that's not what everyone can experience, when
Sure.
they maintain to get, scores of like 90, 80. They are so scared of, losing it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
getting worse than that. But, for me, it could only get better.
Mm-hmm. Could only get
So
better, and it's better late than
yeah,
never.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's right. So I kind of enjoyed studying. And as I enjoyed, um, when you enjoy, that's fun. If you
Mm-hmm.
don't enjoy, it's not fun. And for most of the kids, studying is not fun. So I was kind of lucky
Mm-hmm.
to start from zero, not from 100, so that it
Mm-hmm.
could never go down, but it could only go up.
Sure. What did you major in university?
And English literature,
Mm-hmm.
which I never kind of studied in university.
So,
Also, I was playing music again in the university.
I see.
So, mhm. But
Band
I
music.
kind of studied English, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but not
Obviously,
literature.
but
That
not
was
all right.
thanks. Yeah.
Hmm. So, all right. So, after you graduated university, having learned that studying can be fun, uh, what did you do?
yeah, as I said, I was going to be a teacher. I got the teacher's license in university. I majored in I minored in education as well.
Mm-hmm.
However, I would say I wasn't really ready for becoming a teacher and doing the job for like forever until I retire at 60 or 65.
Mm-hmm.
And deep in my heart, I want to be somebody,
Mm-hmm.
not just a school teacher. I want to be somebody, but I didn't know like what I wanted to be. I wasn't, I had no idea what I want to do with my life. So I just left Japan.
Right.
I got the cheapest ticket, airplane ticket to Malaysia. That was at the time on sale. That was around $60, like 6,000 Japanese yen. That was the
That's
cheapest
cheap.
ticket to fly abroad. So I bought it and I flew to Malaysia and started traveling a little bit.
Mm-hmm. We were backpacking
Yep.
through Malaysia, through Southeast Asia.
Hmm.
Why Malaysia? Why Southeast Asia?
And that was the cheapest ticket to
Oh,
fly abroad.
so you didn't
Yeah.
really care where you went.
No, I didn't at all.
Hmm. So was there something specific you were seeking? Um,
No, that's why I was just traveling,
mhm.
to find what I want to seek or, you know, oh, well, a lot of people travel saying they want to find themselves or something,
Right.
but I didn't even have that idea either. I was just like, well, it's hard to be neat. Do you know this word? Neat. Neat means, someone that doesn't work and just stay at parents. Well, I didn't want to be a neat,
Right.
but backpacking, it's kind of a neat, not working, just traveling, just hanging out every day. But I can be called a backpacker, not
Hmm.
neat if I was abroad. So
I
that's
see.
why, yeah, I started it.
Right. So then you ended up in Cambodia, and that's where the fun really started. Take us there,
First, it
Cambodia.
wasn't really fun, but yeah, I started living there. So from Malaysia, I took a train to Thailand, where I stayed for about a month. I found a really cool bar where there was a live stage, live music stage,
Hmm.
and some band was playing there every night. So I started going there every day. Then one day I asked the band if I could join them on the guitar. Then they let me in. Then
Hmm.
I kind of did a good job. So I started playing music there every night, and that was pretty cool. And I didn't get paid, but I got free meals, free drinks, and yeah, they gave me the shirt of the restaurant.
Hmm.
So I started serving too for free. I mean,
Hmm.
I was up for anything. So that was a really cool experience. And my visa was expiring. Then I asked the owner of the bar if they could extend my visa. And it was like, what the hell is visa? And I was like, then I have to leave this country tomorrow. Then I left the country the next day to
Oh,
Cambodia, which is right next to Cambodia,
yeah.
right? And I visited Angkor Wat,
Hmm.
which was one of my dreams to visit the Angkor Wat that I had seen on the history textbook.
Hmm.
So that was fun, but I was not traveling to see the World Heritage sites or see beautiful places. I was more focused on like meeting people
Hmm.
and experiencing cool stuff. So, and then after I visited Angkor Wat, I had nothing to do. So I just took a bus to the capital of the country, which is Phnom Penh,
Hmm.
where I ended up living for 4.5 years after that.
Yes, but that wasn't your original plan to live there for 4.5 years, I understand.
Never.
That's where the story gets interesting. What happened?
Yeah. Uh, the first day in Phnom Penh, I was scammed by a family
Mm-hmm.
there, and I lost all the money that I had at the moment, including the money that I had in the bank.
Mm. You lost your
Mm,
money? And then what did you do?
yep. And I had no choice but live there. I mean, I didn't even have money to fly back to Japan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And well, some people say, like, ask me why I didn't call anyone for some money, like a couple $100,
Mm-hmm.
with which I can fly back to Japan.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't even think about it. Now I know I was stupid, but that wasn't an option. I didn't even think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and also, when I left Japan, I was telling people around me something like I'm gonna conquer the world, kind of that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't just call them after a couple months saying like, "Hey, I was scammed. Can you send me some money?" No, that wasn't an option. So I chose to live there,
Right.
and I started looking for a job.
Mm-hmm. And
Then I
you
got one.
uh-huh. What'd you do?
I met a Japanese guy there
Mm-hmm.
who was about to start his new business in Cambodia, but he didn't speak a word of English. So I started teaching him English.
I see.
And yeah, before that, I was a homeless for a couple of weeks. So yeah, I met the Japanese guy and I started teaching him English. That was first like $5 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was actually a lot of money for me.
Mm-hmm.
Now I wouldn't teach it for $5 an hour, but yeah, at the time I had nothing to lose. So $5, oh, that was a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And I started teaching him English. Then he introduced me to some other people who I started to teach as well. And after a couple months, maybe after a few months, I saved enough money to fly back to Japan, to
Mm-hmm.
buy a ticket to Japan. But I stupidly didn't buy a ticket, and I bought a guitar.
Yeah.
I went into a music store and I bought the cheapest guitar there. Then yeah, because yeah, I kind of I was kind of liking the country. Then I didn't even think of leaving. So yeah, that's what I did.
So hold on.
And mhm,
So you were an aimless traveler, got scammed, lost a large sum of money, became homeless in a foreign
mhm,
country. Somehow you were resourceful enough to find a job teaching English that got you by.
mhm.
You saved up, you got money to go home, and instead of getting on the plane, you you used your money to buy a guitar and start a new adventure, despite the fact that you were homeless or had been homeless.
That was pretty normal for me. I know I want to do something. So yeah. But how does it sound to you?
Well, obviously, being homeless and broke and worried in a foreign country was not something that was unpleasant for you. Otherwise, you would have been on the plane right away.
That's right.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So,
I would say that
hmm,
was unpleasant, but I still chose that life somehow. Yeah.
why was that? Was there something you were trying to avoid in going back to Japan? You had the option to do that. Hmm.
Yeah, maybe I was trying to, well, what was the word you just said? Avoid. Yeah, maybe I was trying to avoid something which could be like a decision of my life,
Hmm.
which I haven't made it yet anyway.
Hmm.
But anyway, yeah, I was kind of scared to be just another person, like another salaryman in Japan. So I would have rather chose to be homeless, hopeless, broke guy in Cambodia. But I was still doing something that I kind of wanted to do, like playing music.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, there is another cool story. So I got the cheapest secondhand guitar at the music store. Then
Mm-hmm.
I directly went to this rock bar in Phnom Penh,
Mm-hmm.
where customers are all like Westerners, and
Mm-hmm.
the owner was an American guy as well. I went into there, and there was like a Western band playing something. I forgot what song it was, but anyway, it was a really cool place. It was a huge place, and I wanted to play there. So I went over to the stage and asked the band if I could join. And they looked at me like, who the hell are you? A
Mm.
small Asian guy. Then I was so scared because they are so scary. They look so scary.
Mm-hmm.
And the main guy, the lead guitar and the vocalist, I talked to, anyway, allowed me to play
Mm-hmm.
with him, with the band. So I played a couple songs, and that was kind of all right. So again, I started playing there, and this time with visa. I mean, I had my own visa already, so
Oh.
yeah. Then I started playing there for free. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, for a couple of free drinks a night, and the bar is the place that I ended up working as a manager a couple
As a
months
manager.
later. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Then that was kind of a dream job. I wouldn't be able to do that in Japan. I mean, playing music for a living, that's everyone's dream. And that's what everyone in high school gives up on. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mm-hmm.
in Japan, everybody gets a guitar in junior high school or high school. And the competition is really crazy. And if you're in high school, then if you said you want to be a musician, and you will be laughed at, you will be made fun of, and you have to give up on it. But in Cambodia, if I had a guitar and if I played a few chords on it, I will be like a genius.
Mm-hmm.
Cambodian kids will look at me like I'm a superhero, Superman. So I started playing music for a living, and I managed the bar as a manager. Yeah, that was really cool.
While you were doing all of that, you also were doing something on the radio. Could you describe the radio show you did in Phnom Penh?
Yes. Yeah, I was hosting a radio show back in Phnom Penh, and I did it for a few years, actually, 3 to 4 years. I don't remember exactly how long, but yes, and that was really cool. I mean, I was working at the bar, and that was on. The owner was an American, and yeah, most of the customers were Westerners,
Mm.
and there was this guy um, who was a cool the customer, and I would talk to him often. Then once he saw me playing on the stage as well, then after the gig, he came over to me. Then
Mm-hmm.
he said, "Hey, Shu, do you want to host a radio show? Do you want to be a radio DJ?" And I was like, "Oh, this guy is totally drunk."
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, yeah, he asked me to, you know, come to the radio station the next day, and I did.
Mm-hmm.
And he was there. Then he was about to start his show. Then he was like, "Okay, you're gonna be on the show. You're gonna be the guest." I was
Mm.
like, "Okay." Then I got on the radio show for the first time, just like that.
Mm-hmm.
And from the next day or from the next week, I started my own show,
Yes.
just like that. Yeah, on the show, he taught me how to play music, how to choose songs from the computer, and how to turn on the microphone, how to get the commercials in.
Mm-hmm. What
Then, yeah,
what kind of a show was it? Was it music based or was it talk or was it everything?
that there was like everything. There was no guidelines except some words that I couldn't say, like cursing words or something. But that was it. I could do basically whatever I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Also, there were some rules, like basic rules, like I can't play the same song in the same hour or something like that. But otherwise, I could do pretty much, anything, play
Nice.
music, talking. Yeah, I got messages from listeners too. Mm.
And also, while you were doing all that, um, in Cambodia, you decided to be an entrepreneur. Tell us about the Good Times Bar.
Sure. So I was working at the bar as a manager.
Mm-hmm.
The bar I was formerly working was called the Shaki Bar.
Sharky, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I made a YouTube video of that bar, and it's a really, really cool bar. So if you want to check it out.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, one day, suddenly the owner that I owe a lot still
Mm-hmm.
collapsed
Mm.
in the office. Then he passed away.
Whoa. That's, oh
Yeah.
man. Shock.
So yeah, I mean, I was sad, but yeah, that wasn't as shocking as you might expect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it could happen any moment. But anyway, so I owe a lot to him. I owed a lot to him. He let me play, and he hired me as a manager. Then he taught me a lot of things. Also, he was a Chinese American,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, he was a super tough guy. He was a huge guy, both inside and out. He taught me a lot. So,
Mm-hmm.
well, after he passed away, I wasn't sure if I would still be working there because, yeah, without him, the bar wouldn't be the same bar with different owners. So I chose to quit, and I chose to start my own bar,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
which was kind of like for me, like in normal steps. Okay, I work here as a manager, so now my own bar, of course. Yeah, that was something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually started it.
I see. What was the clientele like?
Well, a lot of people uh, who went to Shaki Bar, the bar that I worked as a manager, um, came to my bar, and they were so supportive, which I really appreciate still. And also, yeah, that was a live music venue, even though it was really small. We had a live
Mm.
stage. And also, as I'm a Japanese, and there's a Japanese community in Phnom Penh.
Really?
So yeah, yeah. So we had some Japanese customers too,
Mm-hmm.
with live music. Um, yeah, mostly. We had an open mic night on every Monday, and also on the weekends we had regular gigs with, I would say, paid musicians.
Yes.
Mhm.
So, how long did you run your pet project, your new entrepreneurial endeavor, the bar?
2 years.
Yeah, and you enjoyed it.
Yeah. Not always, but it was an amazing experience, I would say. But
Mm-hmm.
it was super tough. It was hard. I was working every night for 2 years, and
Mm-hmm.
I I wouldn't say I would do that again, but
Mm.
it was so much fun. I learned a lot of things, and that was the first time I paid salaries. I didn't get paid, but
Right.
I had to pay the salary, so I had some huge responsibility, and
Mm-hmm.
also I was working every night. I was drinking every night, but yeah, the sales of the bar didn't cover everything. Um, it was hard. So I was also working as a radio DJ. I
Mm-hmm.
was teaching English to some Japanese people. What else I did? I was a translator. I worked as an interpreter as well. I was doing everything that I could do just to survive.
You said earlier when you first decided to go to Southeast Asia that you knew you didn't want to just be a Japanese salaryman, but you didn't know what you wanted to do. Did you find the things you wanted to do while you were in Cambodia?
Uh, no,
No.
but I also learned something, um, which is that I don't have to decide if I travel, if I try to, look for something, or I don't even have to look for something. If I just keep trying, there will be something, there will be some path.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I haven't decided what I really want to do with my life, but I'm still, 29 years old, like super young, even though in Japan, 30-year-old without a full-time job would be regarded as a failure or something. I mean,
Sure.
I have a full-time job right now, but I don't think I will, having the job forever. So I will be a jobless sometime,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's okay because, um, I haven't been through the half of my life if I lived until 60 years old. Hopefully I will. But yeah, I don't think I have to decide right now what I what I want to be doing forever in my life.
Sure.
Also, I don't think I'll be doing just one thing
Mm.
in my whole life. Yeah, I want to be doing a lot of things.
I want to take us back to the story. So you were doing all of those things in Cambodia, working all the time, all hours, 5 different jobs. Uh, Eventually, you decided to come back to Japan.
Hmm.
What did you do once you got back here?
And first, I worked as manager for an international model agency.
Model agency. How was that?
Yeah. Um, that was nice. That was good to meet a lot of different people from different backgrounds, from different countries. It was
Mm-hmm.
really cool, even though the job itself uh, was not the easiest job that I could have. I mean, it was really hard, and the longest hours I worked was 22 hours in a row, in a row.
God.
So it was hard, but also that's when I decided to, become a comedian. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
stand-up comedian, I mean.
So you were looking at models and just decided, I think I'll do comedy. Could you
Well,
fill us in on how that logic worked?
sure. Well, mm, I would say, yeah, I was working at the back, right? I was not a model. Then that wasn't comfortable. I mean, I wanted to be not a model, but I wanted to be on the stage,
Mm-hmm.
not back on the stage. That's one thing that I felt working in the background. I mean, off the stage,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't know like what what to do, what to be on a stage. But one day, that was the end of the year. We had a drinking party at the time.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty fun.
Mm-hmm.
Then I was asked to give a speech at the end of the party,
Yes.
and I didn't freak out. I mean, if a Japanese guy was asked to give a speech all of a sudden for 5 minutes in English, and if I hadn't been through all the things that I did in Cambodia, I would freak out. But I didn't freak out. I just got up on the stage and I started talking, and that was fun. Then also, basically, I talked about things that I went through in Cambodia and differences between the two countries, Japan and Cambodia. And well, they liked it actually. They liked it, and they were
Mm.
like, "Hey, why don't you do a stand-up comedy?" Then at the time, I was like, "What is it? What is a
Yes.
stand-up comedy?" I didn't really know. And at the same time, I was studying English with a book
Mm-hmm.
uh, on which there was a Japanese comedian writing some small column.
Mm-hmm.
Then I was like, "Oh, there's a Japanese comedian, a Japanese stand-up comedian, performing in New York." Then I searched him on YouTube and I saw one of his shows, and I was like, if he could make uh, a professional comedian with this performance. Why not me?
Was that person Ryoko?
Yes.
His name
And
comes up a lot. I had another stand-up comedian on my show who also brought up his name. So he seems to be a legend.
he definitely is.
Hmm.
Yeah, he's not uh now well in Japan. I don't know
Hmm.
if he is in New York. But yeah, and I was stupid. Like I had never tried stand-up comedy. So like I was stupid and I was like, no, I couldn't be worse than this. So that's how I started it. Now I owe a lot to him, without his existence, without
Hmm.
his trying, without his challenging in New
Hmm.
York as the first Japanese guy as a
Right.
comedian, and I wouldn't probably be doing it.
Hmm.
But at the time I was young and I wasn't experienced, so I didn't know how hard it would be
Hmm.
to do stand-up comedy in a second language. So yeah, he's great. He's amazing. But at the time, I didn't realize how great he was. Then that got me into stand-up comedy. So those
So
experiences.
it was just somebody said, nice speech, it was funny, you should try stand-up comedy, and then you just decided, yeah, okay, that's what I'll do. Is that kind of right?
Pretty much.
Hmm.
Then the next day I was searching a ticket to New York.
Hmm.
Yeah, I want to do it right away because I had no doubt I wouldn't make it. So
You chose to do it in New York. How come not Japan?
I hosted a couple shows in Japan first, but
Hmm.
yeah, that's for some obvious reason. There are not many people who speak English in Japan. I mean, not
Hmm.
a lot of Japanese people speak English.
Yes.
So when I hosted those couple shows in Japan, most of the audience was my international friends in Tokyo and their friends. So it
Hmm.
went well. But also, there is a difference between Japanese comedy and like Western, like stand-up comedy.
Hmm. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So yeah, in in Japanese comedy, it's always like a pair. It's always a duo.
Hmm.
Then one is called a tsukomi, one is called a boke.
Hmm.
This guy says something stupid, and this guy hits him in the head or
Hmm.
something.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's how it works. But stand-up comedy, you're all by yourself,
Yes.
which I'm comfortable with because
Hmm.
I'm all responsible for whatever I do. Then I don't have to be responsible for somebody else.
Hmm.
So it's comfortable for me. But also the content itself is different too. For example, if so my friends watch my YouTube videos of my stand-up comedy
Hmm.
where um like English speakers are laughing at them. But my Japanese friends reaction would be like, oh, interesting. What you're saying is very interesting. Not funny, but interesting.
Right.
Yeah, in Japan, in Japanese, uh, omoshiroi means both funny and interesting. So when
Yes.
I say something funny, they take it as something interesting.
I see.
So they don't laugh, but their reaction will be like, oh, very interesting. And some of them write some notes. That's what happens if I did
Mm.
the same stand-up comedy in Japan. So I wanted to
Yes.
try it in America. Of
Hmm.
course, that's everyone's dreamy country.
Is the fact that you studied or didn't study but took literature at university, did that affect your decision or influence your decision at all?
Maybe because when I started writing comedy, everything that I had been through was a comedy. For example, the education in Japan, the education in high school, everything was comedy. Everything was funny. If I looked at it in that way, that was a tragedy. That was all comedy. For example, so one of the first jokes that I wrote was about my life in university, where
Mm-hmm.
I majored in English literature. But actually, we didn't really read English literature in English. We wrote them. We read them in translated Japanese, because professors are not really good at English itself, but they are good at English literature. But that doesn't mean that they can, speak good English. So
Right. Well, we'll
we
come
had
to
to
that in a
read.
moment.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was a comedy. Also, there was this like Western teacher who would curse a lot during the class.
Yes.
Like, hey, let's get this fucking class started. And that's how I learned, cursing words. I learned it from that asshole. I even learned this word asshole from him.
Right.
So yeah, well, maybe because if I didn't major in English, my English wouldn't have been, good.
Right.
First, I studied English with the Beatles and English songs, but in university, I first like seriously learned grammar and yeah, the things. Yeah.
So you decided to leave Japan once again, and then what? You went to New York, just decided I'll find a stage somewhere and stand on it.
Well, actually, I had decided to move to Canada, but before that, I wanted to try in America. I mean, before I left Japan, before I made any decision, I went over to the American embassy and asked if I could get a working visa as a comedian, as a stand-up comedian. And they didn't say
know what the answer was,
but they didn't say no. They said there is a way, but also they told me that if I did some street performance, then if I got a penny, and that's illegal, I couldn't make a penny in America.
Right.
And like any money, I couldn't work without a working visa. I couldn't even wash dishes. Then I found this Canada, which Canada is right next to America, and I could do working holiday for 1 year in Canada. With working holiday visa, you can do whatever you want in Canada for a year. For example, you can study, you can go to school, you can work, you can travel. So I got that visa, and I decided to go to Canada. But before that, I chose Canada. I chose this city, Toronto, because that was right next to New York.
Yes.
So first I flew to New York, and I wanted to challenge myself in New York first, and I also wanted to make some connection there. So whenever they call, I can just take a bus from Toronto to New York. And also, actually, I went to a lot of open mics in New York. Then I got to meet some comedians, some producers, some people, and I actually did get on a couple regular shows, even though I didn't get paid. Yeah. So that was really cool, performing comedy in New York.
Yes.
But yeah, as I said earlier, I couldn't make a penny there legally. So I was just losing a lot of money staying in Manhattan. So then I moved to Canada, where I could work. I could get a job to survive.
And you took Canada by storm. You suddenly arrived at a comedy stage on the other side of the world, and based on what I've seen on YouTube, you basically killed it right away.
You think so?
I think so. Let's let everyone else decide. Let's take a look, listen to a brief clip from, I believe this is going to be your debut stand-up routine on stage in Canada.
It'd be scary.
Yeah. Shu-san, thank you for your permission to use this. To our friends at YouTube, this is being used with the permission of the content owner. So everyone, the very witty Shu Murakami showed up in Canada, got on stage, and did this.
Oh shit, I forget the first line. Hello! How's everyone? How's it going tonight? I'd like to thank you all for having me, but as I'm from Japan, I must say, I'm so sorry that you have me tonight. Sorry, I might even make you laugh. Sorry. Does anyone have any stereotypes of people from Japan?
Smart.
Smart, thank you. You from Japan? No? That's actually wrong. That's not a stereotype. That's a fact. What about English? Like people from Japan are not supposed to speak good English. Well, I actually used to have a terrible accent too. Like, this is the exact accent that we learned in school in Japan. But I studied really hard to become a stand-up comedian. And last month, I finally moved into Toronto to challenge myself as a comedian. And right now, I'm here on the first stage in Canada. How about that? Thank you. I really appreciate the applause because now I'm desperate, realizing that as a stand-up comic from Japan, when my English was terrible, I was much funnier. Like last week, we had Labor Day, right? People were off work, shops were all closed. I was shocked. In Japan, Labor Day is when we work even harder. More labor. Yeah, for us Japanese, English is very difficult. Believe it or not, I didn't speak a word of English until when I was 18 years old. Yeah, I know. Now I look like 17. I'm actually 27 now. Japanese people have very young-looking faces, which is pretty good, right? If it was not in exchange for height. It's like we never grow up. Peter Pan is not a fairy tale. That's real in Japan. I really appreciate it when, native English speakers get a joke and laugh. Yesterday, I told this joke to my Japanese friends, and they get a joke, and they're like, oh, I understand. My name is Murakami. I'm so sorry for making you laugh. It's been a pleasure. I love you all so much.
Great stuff. Very funny. What a debut. And you still look 17, by the way.
Thanks.
What's your secret? Forget
being
it.
Being a Japanese.
I guess.
Being Asian, I think, yeah.
So over time, you played at many venues in Canada, around Toronto. You were at the Absolute Comedy Bar, Yuck Yucks, which is huge. Corner Comedy Club. Were you at the Corner Comedy Club, right? You played there?
Oh, yeah. Corner Comedy Club, yeah.
And the Asian Comedy AllStars.
That is the biggest.
Yeah,
that was the biggest one
huge.
that I was on.
Yeah, how'd you do?
I really want to tell you one story about that show. So the first day in Toronto, I saw a poster in the city that was about this show called Asian Comedy AllStars.
Yeah, big show.
And instantly, it became my goal to be on that show, Asian Comedy AllStars. Doesn't it sound great?
Yes.
So I want to be on that show. That became my goal. But, well, when I started living there, I was so scared to do anything. And I was just staying home, trying to write some jokes. And when I say like comedians, for comedians, it's really tough to come up with jokes when you just stay at home. Then you end up just wasting 1 day or 2 days or a week or 2 weeks. So I was just living in Canada like that. Then I even missed that show. I forgot to go to the show as well. So yeah. So one day I determined, like, okay, today I will go to this open mic. Otherwise, I'll be dead. I mean, I will be as dead as dead. I decided to, finally go to this open mic, even though I wasn't confident. I encouraged myself. I was like, go to this open mic or die. Then I chose to go to that open mic.
Good choice.
I got on, yeah, and I got on the show, and I I think that was kind of all right. That's why after the open mic, this woman came over me saying like, "Hey, it was great, and your Japanese is really cool. Actually, I host a comedy show called Asian Comedy AllStars. I want you to be on the show sometime." I was like, "What?"
Mhm.
Yeah, that's when I really felt how how lucky I was. I mean, how lucky I had been.
Mhm.
In Cambodia, I got a job as a musician by chance. Then I started working there as a manager by chance, and now I can be on the Asian Comedy All Stars by chance. But also, that's when I realized that if I didn't if I didn't come over to Canada, if I didn't decide to be a comedian, if I didn't decide to challenge myself in
Mhm.
a stupid way, I wouldn't get this chance.
Sure.
So I wasn't just, Googling on the internet in Japan in my house, to seek for a chance to be on the show. I wouldn't probably get it. But I actually went to Canada, and I actually went to this open mic being so scared, freaking out. And so I would be a lucky person, of course, but I wasn't just a lucky person. I was also trying myself. Yeah, that's what I like realized at the time. So, I started keep trying and challenging myself that way.
Mhm. How would you describe your comedy?
Um, okay, it'll be a tough question because I've never thought of it.
I know,
But
that's why I asked
what
it.
okay. One thing I'm focused on would be that I want to be unique. Uh, I don't want to be as same as anybody else.
Yes.
I can't be. It's not original.
Mhm.
So my life's been already like pretty unique. you
Yes,
know,
indeed.
yeah, from a high school dropout to a homeless in Cambodia to a bar owner, also hosting a radio show, and suddenly decided to, become a stand-up comedian. Yeah, that's stupid, but also that's kind of unique. I don't think
Mhm.
there's anyone else that's doing the same thing. So, yeah, I try to be myself, and I try not to copy anyone else. That's why, when I started doing my comedy, I didn't watch anybody else's show. I just wanted to
Mhm.
be, you know, unique.
Mhm.
But yeah, at one point I took a comedy class where I learned a lot of things, like how to hold an open mic, from how to hold an open mic to, you know, how to interact with the audience. So I learned some technical things, but otherwise I would try to be unique, and I try to tell things that only I can tell. For example, the cultural differences between Cambodia and Japan.
Yes.
You know, for example, the cultural differences between Canada and Cambodia, and
Mhm.
maybe the differences among those three countries altogether, which can be told by only those who lived in those three countries.
I noticed that a lot of your humor, what, plays off of the audience's preconceptions or stereotypes about Japanese people or Japan. And
Mhm.
you do it in a very humorous way. It's funny. But I wonder if does that limit what you can do because it requires um, that the audience knows a certain amount about Japan in order to understand what's funny?
Uh, right. I don't think so
Okay.
because yeah, I would use the stereotypes that air. almost everybody would have, or even if they didn't have it, in my way, I try to make them feel like they had that stereotype, or with if the person right next to you had that stereotype and laughed at it, maybe you would feel like, you had the stereotype, or how to say, like you probably get it if the most of the audience gets it.
I see.
I wouldn't say something so specific, but I would only tell something really like general.
Mm-hmm. I see.
Like, yeah, I mean, I would say like Asians are like short. Of course, not all Asians are short, but yeah, they would have that stereotype, and I would put it in a funny way. I mean, I don't just want to be making fun of myself or my people. So I do make fun of myself and my people, but also like I want to make fun of those who laugh at me and who make fun of my people and who would make fun of myself. I want to make how to say, I want to make fun of them like back.
I see.
I make fun of myself, I make fun of them as well. Like they could be Canadians, Cambodians. Yeah, that's what I try to do.
I recently had another stand-up comedian on my show, and I asked him a similar question. So I want to see what your perspective is on this.
Why? Oh, that'd be interesting. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, why are there so few stand-up comedians in Japan? And I don't mean necessarily in English. I mean even in Japanese. Japan has many forms of spoken comedy. There's manzai, there's rakugo, there's other ones. But not stand-up comedy, like in the American or Canadian sense style. It's not common here. Why not?
Because it's not a popular form of a comedy in Japan.
Yes.
And I think stand-up comedy is kind of similar to rakugo, rakugo style. So a rakugo, it's not just funny. You have to be smart, and you have to understand the real intention of what the person is saying.
Right. Tell my audience, what is rakugo?
Okay, I'm not really
briefly.
I'm not familiar with it either. But yeah, rakugo. Well, there are some rakugo stories that you can cry on. There are some rakugo stories that you can laugh on. But it's not just funny. There's always a story of I don't know how long, but from 5 minutes to like 20 minutes. So yeah, my stand-up comedy style, now I kind of know my style of comedy is kind of a storytelling style. So it's all connected from the start to the biggest punchline. So I think it's kind of similar to rakugo.
Right.
And I'm not really good at describing what rakugo is like. Okay. But yeah, rakugo is performed by one person. So that's a similarity, one similarity. So as I said earlier, when I tell my jokes to Japanese people in Japanese, they don't laugh, but their reaction will be like, oh, interesting. 面白いですね. So what I'm trying to say is stand-up comedy is kind of not just funny, but stand-up comedy is really interesting because, for example, in my comedy, I talk a lot about cultural differences and stereotypes, and anybody can laugh at my jokes, I think. For example, if I said, Asians are like, you laugh at me because I'm short, but I was very tall in Japan.
Yes.
And maybe anybody can laugh at it. Everyone in the whole world, but Japanese comedy, it's more focused on Japanese people, Japanese culture, and there are not so much interaction with foreign cultures in Japan, right?
I see. Yeah.
And what was the question? So why there are not so many stand-up comedians in Japan? So
Hmm.
the biggest reason would be the comedy style is different from the Japanese comedy style is totally different from the stand-up comedy style. I mean, two people
Yep.
and one person.
Yep.
So that's the huge difference.
Hmm.
And stand-up comedy performing stand-up comedy needs a lot of guts. You
Mhm.
need huge balls. So yeah, I think it's a scary thing that I'm stupid to, try it. I know, but it's so much fun. And another reason would be that stand-up comedy, it's something intellectual.
Yes.
It's not a instant laugh.
Right.
I mean, in Japanese comedy, you can just, make a funny face and say totally stupid thing to make the audience laugh. But in stand-up comedy, it doesn't really happen. Well, sometimes, but not always. You have
Mhm.
to be something smart. You have to be something that makes sense. You have to say something that everyone has experienced, and say something funny out of it. So yeah, maybe there's a difference between the Japanese comedy style and stand-up comedy style.
There's also a difference in topics.
Hmm.
A lot of stand-up comedy is about, through laughter, making people think about something, either A, that they have not thought about before, or B, think about something they've thought about, but in a different way. The comedy that is popular in Japan, if I'm understanding what you're saying correctly, is the kind of comedy that reminds people of what's funny in what they already know.
Hmm.
Is that a fair way to put what you were trying to say?
Oh yeah. Or doing something totally stupid,
Well, yeah, okay. Right,
yeah, yeah,
right, right.
yeah, yeah. You got it right. Yeah.
Hmm. And another thing, and this is also something that we discussed with my previous other guest, who was a stand-up comedian. Japanese comedy does not discuss politics or social issues.
Totally. Oh, he got the right point. Yeah, I
Mm.
never thought of it. But yeah, definitely. That's right. Yeah.
It's taboo.
It's taboo, definitely. Yeah.
Why?
Uh because Japan.
Well, but
Yeah.
it's well, look at, like, for example, look at politics as an example.
Mm-hmm.
So much of it is already a joke anyways. It's ripe for humor.
You don't have to make comedy out of it. It's already a comedy.
That's right. Yes, just
One
read
thing,
news headlines and people will laugh at it. I mean, so it would be great for comedy here.
Yeah. So, well, but I think in Japan it's a pretty serious thing. But if I just read the topics of like Japanese news, I mean, if I just read the headlines
Mm-hmm.
on the Japanese newspaper, in another country it's gotta be comedy.
Sure.
But here in Japan, I mean, it's not really comedy because we live in it.
Sure.
We live in the comedy. So from the inside, it's just a tragedy. If you look at it from outside, it'll be a comedy. But
Right.
from inside, it's just a tragedy. And it's kind of taboo to talk about it. Yeah, that's a fact. Yeah.
What do you hope to accomplish through your comedy? I mean, other than making people laugh, of course, but what's your goal to accomplish through comedy, if there is one?
That's something that I'm looking for
I see.
because, yeah, I'm not really like a normal, like a regular Japanese anymore who would decide, you know, what he'll be doing at 30 years old and 40 years old and 50 years old at 65 years old, and how much money he needs to be saved by like the time he retires. I'm not like that. but my life has been just like it. I mean, I I don't know what to do, so I just tackle to anything that's right in front of me,
Hmm.
and there will be another path, there will be another choice, and I would just try for that thing. And in that way, I mean,
Hmm.
I cannot see like myself 5 years late. I mean, I started from nothing. When I flew to Malaysia, I had nothing to do. I didn't know what I want to do with my life. So I just, did something that was right in front of me. I just tackled. And I became a musician. I became a manager of a music venue, and I had my own restaurant. My life's been just like that. I try something that's right in front of me with all I can. Then there will be another choice, another option, another way, another path. Then I would just try for it. And now I ended up being a teacher, but it's not a goal, you know, that's just something on my path. So
Hmm.
I'm giving all to my job, my current job, of course, but that doesn't mean that I want to be doing it forever. I'm trying something with my best so that there will be another path, another things that I have to, try hard. So
Hmm.
my life's been just like that. So my goal is to find my goal, I guess. So
Hmm.
for now, I don't know. I still don't know what I really want to do with my life, what my dream is. But I don't think I have to decide right now. I just want to try a lot of different things, and I want to try everything. Because if I focused on one thing, you know, I can't really see different things. For
Hmm.
example, if I just want to be a teacher, that'll be the only thing that I will be focused on. I cannot see any other options. But when I started living in Malaysia, I had no dream, I had no goal, I had no perspective, so I could see everything like 360 degrees.
Hmm.
So I want to be living my life like that for a little while.
Right.
I don't want to be doing it, when I'm 80 years old, but I'm
Hmm.
still 30 years old. So yeah, my goal is to try as many things as possible.
Right. Well,
In that
that's
way,
a.
I can, mm.
Hmm.
And that's how I write my comedy, my jokes. Experiencing a lot of things. I'm not a type of comedian who would just sit at home try to come up with comedy. I would rather make a lot of mistakes and make jokes out of it.
Hmm. I'm going to change gears a little bit. We've spoken already about how important English language has been in your journey. Um, let's talk about English language teaching in Japan, in schools specifically. From what I've seen, Japanese students learn a fairly good range of grammar and also quite a lot of vocabulary. But at least in the past, English conversation, English communication has not been a priority in Japanese schools. What do you think?
I think it's the English education in Japan is pretty much all focused on the grammar
Yes.
and memorizing a lot of words that they
Mm-hmm.
would never use in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
So, so in my classes, I would often tell my kids that English is some similar to like cooking.
Mm.
So there's a purpose first. Like if you want to make curry,
Mm-hmm.
you just try to collect the ingredients that you need. For example, carrots, potatoes, pork meat, and then curry powder, and you can
Mm-hmm.
make curry.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a purpose that you want to make curry so that you just collect things that you need for it. Then you make curry, then you can enjoy eating the curry. But what what it is like, to learn English is like, for example, to make a curry, which is like speaking with foreigners in the real world. You have to memorize the names of all the ingredients and stuff in this world. Like, for example, not just potatoes, carrots. You have to remember the names of this weird mushroom from India, or you have to memorize the names of like everything, every food in this world. And after you collected all the things from all over the world, you don't know which one to use just for curry. But if you just collected potato, carrots, and meat and curry powder, and you can cook it and you can eat it. But in Japanese English education, they just focused on like getting all the ingredients from all over the world, and they never cook. They never use them because they don't have to use them.
That's a good
and
analogy.
This is so yeah, I kind of describe the English education in that way. But what's the point of cooking? That's to eat, to enjoy the thing that you cook. And that's the most that's the fun part. That's what you enjoy. But in Japan, every kid tries to get all the ingredients from all over the world, and they never eat it. So what's the point? What's the fun part? It's never fun. That's why English is hated in Japan, because it's no fun. They never enjoy it. They never eat the actual dish.
Why is it taught that way? That sounds more like mathematics or science than communications.
That's the exact point. The English education in Japan is not to be able to like communicate with another people. It's for exams. So, and in the exams, they're not measuring the ability to speak English. They're measuring the ability to study what they were told to study. So, for example, if they were told to memorize these 100 words, and they're seeing, the examiners are seeing if they can do it, if they will do it. Of course, those 100 words they will never use in the real life talking with another people. But I guess it's all about the exams and scores and grades. So they're just learning English to get good grades, to get good scores on the exams. But those words are useless. Those exams are useless. Yeah. But that's how it is in Japan. It's all about getting a good job or going to a good school. And yeah. So every time I teach them some useful phrases or useful words, useful like slang, they would often ask me, "Hey, teacher, is it going to be on the exam? Hey, does it have anything to do with my grade?" Then I would say, "Yes, it has a lot of things to do with your grade of your freaking life."
Right.
Not the paper, though, because that's the English that they can actually use in a daily conversation, to interact with foreigners. But the only thing they care is their grades, their scores on the exams. But I often tell them, like, who will give you the grades when you die? That's not me. That's not teachers. That's not your boss at work. That's yourself.
Right.
Does it make sense? I shouldn't be doing that as a teacher because I'm the one to give them grades. But, I don't like it when they are too much focused on their grades and scores. And when I actually teach them useful phrases, interesting slang and stuff, the only thing they care is the grades or scores, or if those phrases will be on the exam. So I would say, yes, that'll be on the exam of your life in the future.
Meanwhile, they all watch American movies, so they get out of school with broken English and perfect expletives. That's not a recipe for linguistic success.
No, not at all.
Back to recipes. Is there also a problem about lack of opportunity to speak English in Japan in daily life?
Absolutely. Because, yeah, you actually don't have to speak English to live in Japan. I mean, you obviously have to speak Japanese, but we don't have to speak English to work in Japan, to live a normal life. Here, it's an island, and most of the people are like Japanese.
Yeah.
Living here is totally different from Canada. So yeah, for example, I learned English in a hard way because in the university I learned English somehow, but when I started traveling, my English was because my English was not that good. And then I started working at the bar owned by an American guy. So it was really tough for me. But I learned English in a hard way like that. I had to speak English. Otherwise, I could have been shot. Like, seriously, I could die. I could lose my job. So I had to study English. I had to speak English. I had to communicate with the owner, the customers, and the other manager. So yeah, without that kind of struggle or crazy stuff, I think it's kind of hard to learn language without an opportunity where you speak the language or you die.
Sure. Necessity is the mother of invention.
Necessity, that's the word, yeah.
Yes. English language has been such a huge part of your life. If you were, let me ask this question another way, I guess. If you were giving a lecture in front of a very big auditorium of students, what would you tell them in order to motivate them to wish to want to learn more or study harder?
As a teacher or as an English teacher? To motivate them to study English or to motivate them to study in general?
What do I mean? As Shuhei Murakami.
Okay. Well, to be really honest, I hope none of my colleagues are listening to it. To be honest, I think it's meaningless to go to school. In not in general, but not every school. There might be some good schools, but at the moment, I don't think they have to come to the school. I mean, I'm being a cool teacher, but overall, the Japan's educational system is not really, I can't find a word, great. I would just put it in that way. So, and the reason is that they're not motivated to study. They never enjoy studying. They hate studying, but they're forced to come to school every freaking day.
Yes.
And they are doing what they don't want to do for like 6 hours every single day.
Right.
Plus homework. Well, but I'm pretty sure the government is doing it because, yeah, they are just trying to produce the same people. They'll do the same things that, you know, those who can do the same thing every day to pay the same amount of tax every day, which is great to manage a country. But it's meaningless if they don't enjoy doing what they're doing, if they don't enjoy studying while they're studying. So I'm not focused on the grammar. I mean, I teach grammar, but that's not my focus. I mean, I just want them to get interested in English. And through my experience, I want them to know that with English, you know, there will be no limit. I mean, they can go wherever they want in this world. They can interact with wherever, whoever they want to interact with. And so I would try anything to motivate them to get interested in English. And if they enjoy if they start enjoying English, they don't know, they don't need me, they don't need anything, they don't need a textbook, they don't, you know. So I got interested in music with the Beatles. Then even though I didn't go to school, here I am, you know. So yeah, I just want them to find something that they enjoy so that they will be motivated to learn things about it, or you know, they will be motivated to study about it. But otherwise, if they don't like studying, I would say they don't have to study, because I didn't like studying, then I didn't study. But at one point, I found myself, I found something that I really wanted to get into. So I would say, try anything that they want to, you know, try anything that you want to try, and don't limit yourself. Don't try to find one dream or goal of your life that will limit, you know, your life. For example, if, you know, a student wanted to be a salesman,
Yes.
then if he was focused on being a salaryman, that'll be the only goal, and that'll be the only path of his or her precious short life. But I don't want them to limit their lives like that. But of course, in Japan's educational systems, there are period. For example, I'm teaching the third grade in junior high school, which is ninth grade in America. So they have to decide which school to go and what they want to do in high school. Without going to high school, I would never know what I want to do in high school. Then they have to also decide what they want to do in the future, what kind of job they have to do in the future without even graduating a junior high school. Then yeah, lately one student came over to me saying like, "Hey, Shu Sensei, I don't know what I want to do with my life." Then he was, you know, scared of his life, because he hadn't determined, you know, what he wanted to do in the future. So I said, "Wow, that's great. You have unlimited options."
Right.
Yeah, you can do anything because you don't know what you want to do, so you can try anything. Then he was like, "Is that so, really?" Then yeah, his eyes got brighter, like really I could see some sparkles in his eyes. But I can say that because of what I've been through. But I totally forgot that I struggled a lot. There was a time of period where I couldn't eat anything. I was a homeless. I shouldn't encourage them to do it. But at the same time, I really want to say that they don't have to decide what they want to do, you know, in their lives at the age of 14 or 15. One guy, there was another kid here. He wanted to be a carpenter, but he came over to me and he said, "I'm not sure if I will be a good carpenter, so maybe I will be something else." I'm like, "How do you know if you'll be a good carpenter without being a carpenter first?"
Right.
Yeah.
So,
but that's how it is in Japan. You know, they're scared of going for their actual dreams. Then I know it because once I gave up on becoming a musician in Japan, but I became a musician elsewhere. So that's another option if you can speak English.
Right. The possibilities open up. And your advice at that assembly would be, to quote literature which you studied at university, "Gather ye rosebuds while ye may, old time is still a-flying. And this same rose that flowers today, tomorrow will be dying."
Yeah. It was beautiful, but that's not something that I learned at the university. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. Great. Yeah.
If there were one thing about Japan that you wish more people outside of Japan knew, what would that be?
Me? I'm joking. But
Well,
yeah.
I'm helping. We'll get you up there.
Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate it. But yeah, I can't think of one right now, but I can say that there are things that I want Japanese people to know about the world outside Japan.
I see.
It's otherwise though.
Hmm.
Mm. Yeah, I want Japanese people to see a different world where they don't live for work, they work for a living.
Hmm.
I want them to see that kind of world. Mm.
I'm going to end on this. If you were writing your memoirs of your life and you had to write down the 3 biggest lessons you've learned through all of your wild experiences, what would those 3 lessons be? If you were, let me put it another way, if you right now were writing the book that you, as a high school student, were going to read, what would be the lessons that you would tell that younger Shuhei?
Well, the thing is, I'm too young to do it. I mean, a little people around me say that I should write a book, but I think I'm too young. I'm still too young to do it. I want to experience a little more things before I, write my story. And so 3 lessons, 3
Yes.
things that I would want to tell the little Shu.
Yeah.
Maybe nothing. I would say maybe nothing. There's nothing that I want to teach my little Shu because I wouldn't listen. And I didn't want anybody to tell me like anything. Maybe that's how I became I am right now. So yeah, because I try to do everything in my own way, in a hard way. I'm glad I'm still alive, but it's been really hard. So I might not have 3, but I might have 1. This is what I tell my kids when I teach them the infinitive form, like I go to school to study, or I go to supermarket to buy stuff. And my example, the example that I write on the blackboard is, first I write I have nothing, because I had nothing, right? When I started living in Cambodia, I had no money, I had no friends there. I had nothing. So it looks pretty miserable, right? I had nothing, a homeless guy. But I add 2 words after that. I have nothing to lose. And that was the period of time, that was a period where when I was when I was the strongest of my life, because I had nothing, which sounds pretty miserable, but at the same time that means I had nothing to lose. Now I have some money to lose.
Yes.
And now I have some stuff to lose. So I'm not as strong as I was when I was 22 years old, having nothing. So that's why I'm kind of feeling uncomfortable right now, because it's hard to stay hungry when you have a steady job, and when you're a teacher, which is a civil servant in Japan, getting some steady income every month. You work or you don't work, or you do a good lesson or you do not, you get the same amount of money. That's my first experience of my life. And now I can eat whatever I want to eat. I can drink anything that I want to drink. I'm feeling uncomfortable with it. Stupidly. Yeah. So but I want to stay hungry. So looking at looking back at my experience, my past few years, yeah, when I had nothing, I could do anything because I had nothing to lose. I had nothing to lose means I had a lot of things to win. I had a lot of things to achieve. Yeah.
Just like when you started studying for university.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it couldn't go worse than that because I was, at the bottom. So you can only go up from the bottom. If you are on top, you can only go down.
Right.
It doesn't really make sense though. If you, yeah, I mean, I'm not encouraging everyone to lose everything first. So, but yeah, in my whole life, when I lost everything, was the time I learned a lot of things, and that's when I was the most creative in my whole life, I guess. Because I had to be creative to survive, I had to have a lot of ideas of how to survive, how to get a job, how to eat, how to drink, how to sleep at night.
Well, I think that is a good place to end. Get your creativity back and get back on stage, Shuhei, because you're really funny.
Thanks. My life is funny, so I would try to make, have some good comedy out of it.
Thank you very much for joining us on the RONJIRU Japan podcast, and all the best to you.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to it, and thank you, Jason.
Thanks for joining us on the RONJIRU Japan podcast. For more insights on Japan from people who know Japan, be sure to subscribe to the podcast right now and check out our website at www.ronjirujapan.com. That's www.ronjirujapan.com. Links to all our content are on the website and in the description for this episode, including links to Facebook and Twitter and our YouTube channel, which also has a variety of videos in addition to regular episodes. Please subscribe, follow, and share. I look forward to talking to you again in the next episode. From RONJIRU Japan in Tokyo, I've been your host JT. Until next time, o genki de ne.